Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Monday, the 10th of November. You're tuned into our mid-morning newscast here on ARIRANG TV. Thanks ever so much for joining us on the first day of the work week here in Seoul. I'm Mark Broome. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. President Park Geun-hye is in Beijing to attend the APEC Summit. She's expected to meet with several world leaders, and there's growing speculation the Korea-China FTA could be concluded during her stay in the Chinese capital. Korea will send a 12-person medical team to a special treatment center in Sierra Leone this week to help in the fight against Ebola. Plus, tens of thousands crowd the streets of Berlin as it marks 25 years since the fall of the wall that divided the city during the Cold War. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye is in China on the first part of a 9-day trip that will also take her to Myanmar and Australia. On the sidelines of the APEC Summit in Beijing, President Park will hold bilateral talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping, where the focus will be on the progress of Korea-China FTA negotiations. The Korea-Australia Leaders Summit will also take place in Beijing, and it's expected that President Park will meet US President Barack Obama there as well. Now, in Myanmar, where she will attend the ASEAN +3 summit, President Park will seek to strengthen ties in meetings with her counterparts from India and New Zealand. And finally, while in Brisbane, Australia, for the G20 summit, President Park plans to ask the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia to support Korean firms seeking to take part in Saudi construction projects. And as we just mentioned, on the sidelines of the APEC Summit taking place this week in Beijing, Korea and China are widely expected to make a very big announcement about their free trade negotiations, which have been ongoing for months now. Our Che Yu-san, who is travelling with the president, fired this report from Beijing.
On Monday, the first day of the APEC China Summit, President Park will hold talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping. And it's highly expected that the two leaders will announce a major development in their bilateral FTA, such as the completion of their 30-month-long negotiations. In fact, Korea's high-ranking official told reporters Sunday that the trade pact negotiation was nearing an end, albeit still ongoing. During Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to Seoul in July, the two presidents agreed to finalize their FTA within this year. The two sides had disagreed on opening up each other's service market, tearing down the non-tariff barrier and regulations concerning a product's place of origin. Seoul had wanted Beijing to immediately open its industrial products market, while Beijing demanded Seoul to further open its agricultural and fisheries markets. Speaking to a Chinese broadcaster a day before the APEC summit, President Park said Korea and China, through the signing of their FTA, would give a boost to discussions on integrating economies in the Asia-Pacific region. Presidents Park and Xi will also exchange views on regional security, especially on ways to resolve the North Korean nuclear issue and restore peace and stability on the peninsula. Also on Monday, the Korean leader will meet the APEC Business Advisory Council, where she plans to introduce her 3-year economic innovation plan to spur domestic growth and expand the job market through social reforms, deregulation, and supporting creative industries. Che Yu-san, ARIRANG News, Beijing.
Now, 2 Americans released from captivity in North Korea have been reunited with their families in the United States. Kenneth Bae and Matthew Todd Miller were freed following a very rare visit by a top U.S. security official to North Korea, and he brought with him a letter from President Barack Obama. Seoul says it welcomes the North's move, but it wants Pyongyang to do the same for a South Korean missionary who is also detained in the north. Our Kim Yeon-bin reports.
The 2 Americans freed from North Korea arrived safely back in the United States on Sunday, accompanied by U.S. Intelligence Chief James Clapper, who intervened on their behalf. The 2, Kenneth Bae and Matthew Todd Miller, had been doing hard labor in North Korea, and their release comes less than 3 weeks after a 3rd American detainee was freed by Pyongyang.
Well, I think it's a wonderful day for them and their families. Obviously, we're very grateful for for their safe return.
Bae, a Korean-American missionary, was arrested in North Korea in November 2012 and sentenced to 15 years of hard labor for crimes against the state. After landing in the U.S., he thanked President Barack Obama and the North Korean government for his freedom and said he appreciated the thoughts and prayers of people who supported him. Miller, who did not speak to the press, was reportedly tried on an espionage charge and had been in custody since April. The release comes on the heels of a UN resolution highlighting Pyongyang's human rights violations and calling for referral to the International Criminal Court. North Korea has been on a diplomatic campaign to counter the move, but it is unclear why the communist state freed the two men at this point. The U.S. says Clapper's visit to North Korea was strictly for humanitarian purposes and does not signal a policy change toward a reclusive state. CNN reported that the North Korean government issued a statement about the release, saying it had received an earnest apology for the men's actions from President Obama. According to the statement, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ordered the release. The South Korean government welcomed the release of the two Americans, but urged Pyongyang to release a South Korean missionary who was detained in North Korea for spying last May.
We want the North to release our missionary, Kim Jong-uk, on humanitarian grounds, and we want the North to actively respond to humanitarian issues between the two Koreas, including reunions for separated families.
UN Secretary General Park Geun-hye expressed his hope that the move would create positive momentum for improving relations for peace and security on the Korean Peninsula and beyond. Kim Hyun-bin, ARIRANG News.
Japan, the United States and Australia wrapped up their first ever trilateral military exercise on Sunday. Reports say 15,000 troops were involved in the three-day drill in Miyagi Prefecture. The drill was held under the scenario of a major earthquake and tsunami. Japan's Asahi Shimbun reports that the U.S. wants to encourage other countries in the region to join in similar exercises as Washington is cutting back heavily on its defense budget. In last month's revised guidelines for U.S.-Japan defense cooperation, the two nations added a new line that said cooperation with other allies in the region is crucial to maintain stability in the Asia-Pacific region.
Said that a team of South Korea...
Get connected to Korea and the world. Join us every weekday for the latest developments out of Korea, Asia, and beyond. On air, on your mobile, and online, we lead the way every day. ARIRANG News.
To try and resolve the crisis in Ukraine, the European Union also offers $15 billion. Korea is going to dispatch medical personnel to a British-led Ebola treatment centre in Sierra Leone this week. The 12-person team made up of volunteer doctors, nurses and military officers will be stationed at a special treatment centre that's being built currently in the capital city of Freetown there in Sierra Leone. Our Shin Se-min reports.
The destination has been set. Seoul is sending its medical personnel to Sierra Leone to contribute to the global battle against a deadly Ebola epidemic. The Ministries of Foreign Affairs, Health and Defense said Sunday that an advanced team of 12 officials from the three ministries will embark on a visit to the UK and Sierra Leone starting on November 13th to assess the situation for the medical team. The team, with members from 3 government agencies as well as experts from Korea International Cooperation Agency, will be visiting the British-led Ebola treatment center located in the capital of Freetown.
The team will examine treatment facilities for the coming medical team, as well as working conditions. They will also check to see if Korean medics can receive treatment at a nearby ward if they contracted the disease.
But before they arrive in West Africa, they will stop by the UK to visit their safety education facilities and discuss details on safety support system, as the United Kingdom has been providing massive aid effort to Sierra Leone. Korea and the UK are also looking to sign a memorandum of understanding on medical support as part of efforts to work together in the fight against the disease. Initially, the Korean government said it would dispatch a 10-member medical team, but that number is expected to rise. The Foreign Ministry said 145 people applied to be part of the team, including doctors, nurses, laboratory technicians, and safety managers. 40% of the applicants were women. The ministry said the final group will be chosen based on their level of expertise. Shin Se-min, ARIRANG News.
And Korea's neighbors are also actively supporting the fight against Ebola. China says it will build a medical center in Liberia. This will be equipped with 100 beds and it will deploy up to 1,000 aid workers to Ebola-affected countries. So far, Beijing has sent well over $120 million in aid to the three hardest hit countries, namely Guinea, Liberia and Sierra Leone. In addition, Japan has announced plans to send thousands of doses of the anti-influenza drug Avigan to the African countries. Clinical research has shown that this drug is fairly effective in dealing with Ebola. However, one country is going against the grain, namely North Korea. Pyongyang has refused to offer any kind of foreign assistance. The South Korean stock market has seen little in the way of upward momentum in recent months. In fact, the benchmark Kospi has performed worse this year than 15 other major markets around the world. According to the Korea Exchange on Monday, the Kospi is down 3.5% from the beginning of the year. That's the lowest level among bourses that each account for more than 1% of the world's total market cap. The only other bourses with negative growth were Germany's DAX, Britain's FTSE 100 and France's CAC 40, and they were all within the minus 2% range. India's Sensex soared 32%, the highest, followed by the Shanghai Composite Index and the S&P 500 in the US. Now, gone are the days when companies could only really market their products on TV or in newspapers or magazines. Today, YouTube marketing is where it's at. And analysts say that YouTube ads are everything TV commercials aren't. They are engaging, targeted and, most importantly, rather affordable. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
Viral frenzy. Korea's distribution industry is taking its marketing campaigns online and they're getting funnier and more sensational. This video featuring a fashion brand's fall and winter collection got 1.9 million views in just the first 2 weeks after going on YouTube.
YouTube marketing allows us to better deliver the story and concept of our brand. We can also check out instantly who is interested in our products, and the popularity of the ad leads to increased sales.
Paldo, a local food and beverage company, saw sales of its traditional rice drink Sikke jump 35% after the release of an online ad, which it says allowed them to reach a larger consumer base. In some cases, it's not just about sales and numbers. This campaign of an online shopping mall, for one, looks to rebuild its image with a thank you message to postal workers. Some people have a negative view about shopping advertisements, saying that it promotes spending. However, we actually see it as a way of linking people. We wanted to show our philosophy through the ad.
YouTube and other popular internet sites have become a favored marketing tool among companies. Unlike conventional TV ads, online advertisements are relatively cheap, can offer context, a sense of immediacy, and personalization all at once. Industry watchers say although it costs less to produce these advertisements, the positive effects can be greater as the company gets its message out to a wider audience, especially if it goes viral. And the craze has boosted growth in the online ad market, particularly the mobile sector. Last year, the mobile advertisement market was valued at nearly $400 million, more than a five-fold increase from 2011. That makes up about 4% of the total domestic ad market. And with the exponential growth in the use of smart mobile devices, watchers say it's a market that is sure to get bigger. Kim Min-ji, ARIRANG News.
Steel is one of Korea's flagship export items, with outbound shipments accounting for more than half of the country's total output. But Posco, which is the country's leading steelmaker by far, is losing ground in the global market in the face of cheap Chinese steel. In this week's Industry Insider, Hwang Ji tells us how Posco is weathering this new storm.
In the late 90s, Posco was the #1 company in the global steel market in terms of productivity. But that was a long time ago. Today, it's the world's 6th largest steel maker, with Chinese mills quickly making up ground, or in some cases, even moving past Posco. Is it a sign of things to come? Take a look. China's steel exports are as strong now as they've ever been, hitting a record high in September. This has a lot to do with Chinese steelmakers looking to the global market with a slowdown in the domestic economy, but their low prices are also enticing global clients. This is bad news for Korea's largest steelmaker, Posco.
Chinese competitors are starting to export to markets that Posco does, which means more competition and slumping steel prices.
Given the market conditions, then, it should come as no surprise that Posco's sales and profits have been on the slide for the past 3 years. Adapting to the new landscape, Posco, which has nearly 50 affiliates, is offloading its non-steel units like department stores. But analysts say such a strategy cannot be a cure-all for Posco.
Posco should expand its marketing network and strategic alliances with its customers to innovate its steel products by cooperating with its customers.
In fact, the Korean steelmaker is already doing that, calling it strategy solution marketing. Posco has pledged to contribute to the development of its customers by introducing products that cater specifically to their needs. For example, by teaming up with French automaker Renault, Posco developed high-strength but lightweight steel products for Renault's new hybrid car, leveling the playing field against cheap but lower-quality steel from China. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Time now for a look through the global headlines we're following on this Monday morning here in Seoul. For that, we turn to Eunice Kim, standing by the news centre. Hello there, Eunice.
Good morning, Mark.
So Sunday marked 25 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall, and Germany had a day packed full of events. We were watching the video earlier and capped it off with an elaborate event at the Brandenburg Gate, which was attended by tens of thousands of people.
Absolutely, and among them were German Chancellor Angela Merkel, as well as the leader of the former Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev. It was a night of remembrance, music, and thousands of lighted balloons released into the sky to remember the fall of the wall that showed dreams can come true. Our Son Jung-in takes us there.
A light installation was set to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall on Sunday. 8,000 illuminated balloons containing personal messages were released along a 15-kilometer stretch of the former border to signify the dissolution of not only the wall, but of the symbolic division between East and West. German Chancellor Angela Merkel led the celebrations, attended by tens of thousands of people, and honored those who helped bring down the wall, describing its fall as an example of the human desire for freedom. However, the day also served as a reminder that the scars of history remain in the people's hearts. Speaking at a separate event in Berlin, former leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, who is credited for his role in reuniting Berlin in 1989, warned that tensions between the U.S. and Russia over Ukraine could plunge the world into a new Cold War.
The world is on the brink of a new Cold War. Some say that it has already begun. And yet, while the situation is dramatic, we do not see the main international body, the UN Security Council, playing any role or taking any concrete action.
Renewed clashes between government forces and Russian-backed separatists in eastern Ukraine over the weekend are raising concerns that tensions between the West and Russia will escalate even further. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
U.S. President Barack Obama has signaled a new phase in the fight against Islamic State militants as his country prepares to double up on the number of military advisors dispatched to Iraq. In an interview with CBS News' Face the Nation, President Obama said the deployment of up to 1,500 more troops does not change the fact that American military personnel will not engage in combat. He said Phase 2 would be marked by an offensive posture if Phase 1 was a defensive one, Iran, concurrent to establishing a credible central government in Iraq. Meanwhile, U.S. and Iraqi officials are looking into the possibility that a weekend airstrike wounded the leader of the IS group, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. A leader in the Anbar Provincial Council had said that several IS leaders were killed when a coalition strike hit a house where 30 leaders had been gathered. More than 2 million citizens in Spain's wealthy region of Catalonia went to the polls on Sunday to vote in a largely symbolic poll on whether or not it should be a state independent from Spain. The move comes in defiance of an earlier order by Spain's constitutional court to suspend what it called an unconstitutional referendum. With 88% of the votes counted, the Catalan government said 1.6 million of its 7.5 million people had voted for forming a new nation. Nationalism has been brewing in Catalonia and its capital of Barcelona as the region contributes more to the Spanish economy than it gets back in government funds.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off in the LPGA, where Stacey Lewis hoped to gain ground on the world rankings, with Park Geun-hye now participating at the 2014 LPGA Mizuno Classic over the weekend. But it was another Korean who took the title with a dramatic finish. That's just an incredible final round of the event, with Korea's Lee Mi-hyung, Lee Lee, and Japan's Kotono Kazuma sharing the lead after 18 holes of the final round, all at 11 under par overall. And it didn't take just a couple of sudden death playoff holes, but 5, as 21-year-old Lee Mi-hyung comes up on top with a clutch birdie, claiming her first LPGA Tour title of her career. Meanwhile, world number 2 Stacey Lewis, who struggled a bit in the second round, finished off tied for 31st at 5 under par overall. And now shifting over to the 2014-2015 ISU Short Track World Cup, which kicked off its new season as the stars from the Sochi Winter Games continued their dominance in their sport. This includes Shin Da-eun, who won the men's 1500-meter gold, and 17-year-old Shim Seok-hee, who won the gold medal in the women's 1000-meter event for her 11th straight World Cup event with a gold medal finish. Meanwhile, Russia's Victor An, a.k.a. An Hyun-soo, would take the top podium spot at the men's 1000-meter event. And now with that, shifting over to the 2014 Korean series between the Samsung Lions and the Nexen Heroes, who are set to face off in Game 5 of the best-of-5-7 series later tonight. And as usual, starting from Game 5 of the series, the Korean series will take place at Chamsil Stadium instead of the Mokdong Stadium or the Daegu Stadium where the both teams play. With Samsung squeezing past Nexen in Game 3, Nexen answered back with a parade of home runs in Game 4, tying the series at 2-2. Meanwhile, crucial Game 5 later tonight with the struggling Henry Sosa taking the mound for the Nexen Heroes, and Samsung's ace Rick Vandenhurst getting the start as well. And speaking of which, over to the K-League Classic, where the final super match of the season between the Suwon Samsung Blue Wings and FC Seoul took place on Sunday at the Suwon World Cup Stadium, with Park Ji-sung in attendance. Now, with over 34,000 fans in attendance on Sunday, both sides played aggressively from the start, with both teams firing away with 6 shots each in the first half, but none of those finding the back of the net. Now the second half kicks off, and Suwon decides to kick it up a notch, firing away 10 more shots, but still failing to score. Now with the clock winding down and 3 minutes added on, is Ko Yo-han in the 90+3 minutes somehow heads one past the goalkeeper, a last-second goal, and the winner, as FC Seoul wins the final super match of the season 1-0. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
it's a very cold morning. The current temperature is still at about 6 degrees Celsius here in Seoul, so be sure to dress warmly before heading out today. But it should feel much nicer in the afternoon with daily highs reaching into mid to upper teens in many areas. And high pressure front will provide lots of sunshine, so sunny skies will be featured all day long across the nation. With that in mind, here are the readings for today. Now, the daily high in the capital will be topping out at 16, while Daegu and Gwangju will peak at 18 and 17, and Busan will be climbed into 19 this afternoon. And on to other regions. Jeju Island and Daejeon will see highs of 16 and 17, while Dokdo gets up to 14. While temperatures will remain on the cold side through the week, and on Thursday, on the day of college entrance exam, the daily low will drop to 0 and highs will remain on the 9. So for those who are taking a test on that day, be aware of cold weather. That's all for now. Back to you, Mark, in the studio.
Well, thank you very much, Jian, for the weather as always. And that's going to do it from us for now. We'll be back again at 12 noon Korea time with another newscast. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.